And in response to the worsening trends and existing challenges for our healthcare system, I'm strongly recommending that all Ontarians, not just those at high risk, wear a mask in indoor public settings, especially around our most vulnerable Ontarians, the very young and the very old. I'm also recommending that, if possible, children between 2 and 5 wear a mask with supervision if they can tolerate the mask and safely put it on and off.
We're gonna listen to that one more time.
And in response to the worsening trends and
look at his hand, by the way,
challenges for our healthcare system, I'm strongly recommending that all
He's
Ontarians,
strongly recommending,
not just those at high risk, wear a mask in indoor public settings, especially around our most vulnerable Ontarians.
Am I wrong, or does it look like he's being held hostage? I mean, first of all, who is it that he looks like again? It's not Stalin, it's Lenin. Set that aside for a second because it's fitting, but it's not funny. He looks like he's being held hostage. But for those of you who don't know who this guy is, this is Dr. Kieran Moore, Ontario's chief medical officer or chief officer of public health. I forget what it is. He's the chief doctor of Ontario.
It's the very young and the very old indoor public settings, especially around our most vulnerable Ontarians, the very young.
The very young are the most vulnerable Ontarians?
And the very old. I'm also recommending that, if possible, children between 2 and 5 wear a mask with supervision if they can tolerate the mask and safely put it on and off.
I am always honest, but I'm going to be blunt. This morning is one of the mornings where I woke up and the insanity of the world was no longer funny. It's like I try to laugh and I try to laugh it off and say, oh, you know, this too shall pass. This is one of the mornings where the insanity of the world is not funny. It's not amusing. It's tough to see the silver lining to this absolute junk science, junk politics. Oh, let me just make sure that we're live on Rumble. That and the internet's been glitchy. My wife, I know what she says. I'm the energy of the house. And when I'm frustrated and angry, it's contagious as much as it's contagious when I'm happy, jubilant, and exuberant. I'm feeling a little bit better. A lot of you, I think we're the same boat on this. You know, this channel started off as therapy for me from the practice of law. This is back before many of you even knew I existed. I would make feel-good videos, random videos, because it was my cathartic relief from the drudgery of the practice of law. The drudgery of the practice of law worked its way into the channel, which is ironically when it started getting interesting and popular. But this channel, at least for me, has also been a source of therapeutic relief over the last, let's say definitely 3 years, but possibly 5 years of madness. I didn't appreciate the madness in 2018. I now appreciate the madness. And this, you know, back in lockdown, I once upon a time, you know, tweets that aged badly. I once upon a time tweeted, when I thought it was going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve, turned it to 2 months. When all of this madness is going to be over, like in a few months, we're going to go outside. We're going to breathe a breath of fresh air. We're going to, you know, like when you've been exercising and you're sweating and you're hot and you run outside and it's just a crisp autumn day and the leaves are falling off a tree and like the air hits your lungs and it's refreshing. It's rejuvenating. And it's like, I cannot wait for that spiritual moment in all of this madness. And that moment has never come. And I think, you know, the gasping breath of fresh air only works when the boot comes off your chest. The boot has yet to come off our collective chests, and it's only being pushed down harder and harder with increasing weight as time goes along. That being said, when I first started doing the streams, I remember them. I was like, I said, I'm going to do a random short notice stream Friday night, stuck at home. What the hell else am I going to do? It was cathartic relief. It was therapeutic for me. And having met, you know, lots of people on the street, especially those who got to know me during the Ottawa convoy, I now also appreciate it is therapeutic for people who watch. Try to make sense of the madness, and if you can't make sense of the madness, laugh it off. Some days you can't laugh it off. It's not easy to laugh off. And not laugh off in the sense of, haha, it doesn't make a difference. It's, holy shit, can we just get to the moment in history where we look back at this and we acknowledge the evil people for what they did, the weak people for what they did, the fragile people for what they did, and the brave people for what they did? Can we just get to that point in history? I want to sort of get a click moment where just fast forward through this madness so we can see how it ends. But then you realize you fast forwarded to the end of your life, and the life lesson was you have to live through the hardships as much as you have to live through the beautiful parts of it. Click. First movie reference. Second movie reference, Little Miss Sunshine. The times when we learn most about ourselves are when we go through the hardships. I've found it always difficult to even be happy and just enjoy the moment. It's a psychological disorder. I appreciate that. But once you get past the hard stuff, you look back and you say, holy crap, I built some muscles. I built some callus. I built some knowledge, intelligence, and it was worth it. In as much as exercise is hard when you're doing it, but worth it afterwards. We haven't gotten there yet, though. Oh, but we will get there. So I'm feeling a little better already. But holy, sweet, merciful goodness. If I could show you what my notes look like for today's show. I mean, we're dealing with two basic themes today: junk science and junk politics. And I mean, they treat us like we're absolute idiots. They look at us and they say, hey, you're dumb, and you're going to believe what I'm going to tell you right now. And you won't believe it. But first, I love the streams also because they're interactive. Viva, the only silver lining is that normal people are more intelligent than the experts. It has little value, but it is something at least. Echero or Echero or Echero or S-Hero. I'm going with S-Hero. EC Hero. That's how I'm calling you now. Yeah, you're right. We are walking calluses at this point. I have an analogy. I thought it was insightful once upon a time. I once had a website called Bathroom Blog. I think I got bathroomblog.ca, not .com. It was what you thought it was. It was my deep thoughts as I would sit on the toilet. And I was like, oh, if I have these deep thoughts, I'll make a blog and I'll call it bathroomblog.ca. Callus is good. You know, it takes time to build callus, and it makes you less sensitive to superficial pain. But there is a point after which callus will break. They will crack, and they will be even more sensitive than the raw skin was at the beginning. Callus is good up to a point, and then callus breaks and leads to infection and excessive pain. For anybody who's ever been heavy into rock climbing, you know, you're rock climbing, after a while you get nice, thick mats on your hands. But when those things crack, and they do crack over time, it's time to take some time off of rock climbing. Here, by the way, John F. Kennedy, Viva, the Trudeau image you used is wearing the wrong uniform and has the wrong type of mustache. Well, we're going to get there. John F. Kennedy, first of all, nice to see you again. I've seen that video, that picture circulating the interwebs. The thumbnail I used, the image I used for the thumbnail. I always thought that entire image was a joke. I always thought it was a meme, a fake image. It's not. It's not, people. Check this out. Justin Trudeau in uniform. So look at this. It's a real image. It's not a doctored image. It's a real image because Justin Trudeau, the greatest actor that has ever become prime minister, there was an article in Maclean's. When is this from? 2018. And I'm not making fun of anybody for having, you know, as a drama teacher, having dressed up. I'm not making fun of anybody for having dressed up. I just thought it's absolutely hilarious because I thought that entire picture of the bad man in the uniform, I thought that was a meme in of it. I thought that was a doctored image, but it's not. So here we got Justin Trudeau, Sophie Trudeau, yada, 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 at the temple in India. No, I'll miss your next story. Don't worry about it, McLean's. Then we've got Zorro, I guess. This is Justin Trudeau dressed up for the 2010 Montreal Movember Gala. Then we got Clark Kent, because Justin Trudeau, in addition to everything else, apparently thinks he's Superman. House of Commons in Ottawa, 2017. Justin Trudeau, I don't even know what this is, attends the 44th Vancouver Chinatown Festival, 2017. This is him just dressed up as a Canadian. I'm not sure what's going on there, but... And here we go. Justin Trudeau on set during the filming of CBC's miniseries, The Great War. Trudeau played Talbot Mercer Papineau, a soldier who was killed during the Battle of Passchendaele. Oh, he's so happy with himself. What year was that? They don't give the date for that one. Then you got, oh my goodness. Okay, whatever. Oh, I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know what's real anymore. Okay. So it's a real image, by the way. Yar, then you got more Movember. Man, he just loves dressing up, and he just loves being a superhero. So we're gonna get into it, people. But first things first. First things first, actually. Let's just see if I've violated any of the hold on, I'm just gonna go see if we're still green lighted on the YouTubes. We're good on Rumble, which is good. We're gonna feel better by the end of this. I will not promise you that. You'll be angry, but at least we'll have a couple of chuckles at the madness in real time. But oh shoot, did I hold on 1 second? Did I add it? Oh, I'm a neurotic man. I'm a neurotic man and a hyper ethical man. Good. I hit this stream contains paid promotion, like a product placement, sponsorship, or endorsement, so that everybody who's watching will not feel duped and will not think I misled them, because it is a sponsored video. And if I had not clicked that button, I think I would have put the sponsorship off until tomorrow. I will thank my sponsors, Field of Greens. In a world going mad, when you are expected to swallow garbage, rubbish, you can take a few minutes out of your day and do something healthy for your body. Drink 1 to 2 cups of Field of Greens. Take a spoonful of desiccated greens, not defecated. It becomes defecated, but it starts off as desiccated. Dehydrated, pulverized fruits and vegetables, power fruits and vegetables, all the healthy antioxidants you expect from fruits and vegetables. It's the second best thing you can do to eating raw vegetables, which I do probably too much of in any case. Field of Greens, it's powdered greens. It's not a supplement. It's not an extract. It's an actual food. It is USDA organic certified. Made in America. I interviewed Dr. Mike on last week on the channel for 5-7 minutes so he could explain to the world. It's good stuff. It has 1 serving of vegetables per spoon. Most people are supposed to have 5 to 6 servings of vegetables per day, and most people do not. This is a good way to get your fruits and veggies, serving 1 to 2 servings a day. You drink it. It tastes good. And I'm not saying that to say that. It tastes good. It looks like I say all the time, swamp water, but people don't appreciate swamp water is the water of life. It's where life starts. The green, what do they call them? Swamplands, marshes, greenlands is the word I'm looking for. There's a reason why they're nutrients, why fish go there to lay their babies, nest. Greenlands are ever important because they're rich in fertility. Field of Greens, you put it in a glass, looks like you're drinking green water. If you put the green one in, then they have different flavors. It's delicious, it's healthy, it's nutritious. If you can't eat your vegetables, it's the second best thing. And even if you can, it's a damn good thing. Fieldofgreens.com. Go there. Promo code VIVA gets you 15% off your first order and 10% off a subscription. Fieldofgreens.com, promo code VIVA. You'll notice it takes you to Brickhouse Nutrition. That's the company that makes it. It's good. I like it. I have vetted it thoroughly so that I can feel good about sponsoring it. And I am very happy and very proud to sponsor with them and have them sponsor the channel as well. So show some love if you're into it. And at the very least, you know that you're getting something good into your body. But speaking of being expected to swallow the rubbish, what do we start with? Do we start with the junk science, or do we start with the euthanasia in Canada? I've jokingly said I'm no longer being polite, although I still think I'm probably polite, and I still understand how I'm going to be over the top for some people who cannot understand it. History does not repeat, but it's Mark Twain. History never repeats, but it often rhymes. And people have to understand what that means. Nothing is ever that you never step into the same river twice. Heraclitus. Hold on. Zoroaster, I remember you as well. Been a while since I caught you, Viva, live, but Viva, remember the good old days when you felt a little uneasy about me talking about the government forcing untested vax on people? LOL. They were the good old days. I remember the good old days when I didn't want to talk about politics because politics is toxic. Politics ruins everything. And unfortunately, we've learned another great Greek tragedy of a lesson. If you don't get involved in politics, you will end up being governed by your inferiors. The other, I think it's Plato or Aristotle, one of the two. You may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. Politics ruins everything, right down to the science. Would I interview Artur Pawlowski? 1,000%. I reached out a couple of times back in the day. 1,000%. Artur Pawlowski is the street church pastor who was locked up for contempt twice for violating public health orders in Alberta. 1,000% Artur Pawlowski, if you're watching. I don't know if we're on Twitter, if we're connected on Twitter, but 100%. I appreciate some people might look at my Twitter feed and say he's crazy. There's nothing I can do about that anymore. It's been an evolution, and it's been a forced evolution over time. And I'm done being polite. I'm also done mincing my words when it comes to certain things. We are now living in an era in Canada where you have effectively what is nothing less than what Obama himself said. It's Obama's words, not mine. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So I don't want YouTube thinking I'm not saying the statements. Obama medical experimentation Twitter. Just want, when Obama says it, it's okay. So let's just pull up his words. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it fast enough. I'll try to get it up in a bit. Tested on billions. Let's just see if that tested on billions. What's amazing is, here we go. Don't trust me. And when I say it, I'm not saying it. I'm just quoting Obama, so I can do no wrong by doing it. Oh, Obama, despite the fact that we have now essentially clinically tested the vaccine. Here we go.
And yet, despite the fact that we've now essentially clinically tested the vaccine on billions of people worldwide, around 1 in 5 Americans is still willing to put themselves at risk and put their families at risk rather than get vaccinated.
I love his dramatic pauses.
People are dying because of misinformation.
Oh, yeah, they are. They are. Let's listen to this again. I loathe the pretentious pauses for dramatic effect. I loathe them.
And yet, despite the fact that we've now essentially
clinically tested
the vaccine on
billions of
people worldwide.
Clinically tested. Dramatic pause. Do you know what you just said?
Around 1 in 5 Americans is still willing to put themselves at risk and put their families at risk rather than get vaccinated.
Do you know what it means to clinically test something on billions of people? It means that when they told us it was safe and effective, they had no reason for telling us it was safe and effective because they were clinically testing it on us at the same time they were telling us it's safe and effective, so take it. I'm sorry. Am I not allowed getting angry at that? Some of you say I got what I deserve and I'm an idiot and I caved into my own cowardice. And maybe there's an element of truth in that. I stuck that in my own, it wasn't in my veins. It went into my arm. I put that in my body twice. No more recently than August 2021, people. So if something happens to me suddenly and, whatever, just know that I'm not getting a booster. Or I'm not getting that booster. I put this in my body. They said it was safe and effective at the time. And I'm not stupid. I knew that you can't say something is safe and effective when you haven't had 10 years of safety data to see if it's safe and effective. But I was ignorant enough at the time to say, what's the worst that this can do? I mean, it's just a little bit of fluid that they put into your body. It boosts your, it's supposed to trigger an immunological response. What's the worst it could do? That was my stupid thought process at the time. Ignorant, naive. Should have known better, but maybe I didn't. Should have been better, but maybe I wasn't. And I had my own reasons, and I say I'll live with my own risks. I say, okay, there's risk here, there's risk there. I'm going to take my risks so that I can live with myself. Clinically tested on billions of people in real time. That's not science. That's arguably a crime against humanity. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I remember, this is the evolution of life. I remember hearing people say Nuremberg Code violations, crimes against humanity. And I was like, that's a little much, don't you think? That was before Obama gets up on stage and thinks he's like the hero to tell us, despite the fact that we've now effectively clinically tested on guinea pigs. Oh, you were the guinea pig, by the way. We forgot to tell you in real time. Passion lawyer. That was my second thought. Perhaps that particular dramatic pause was Obama realizing what he just said, but deciding to plow ahead anyhow. Yep, that's definitely not an but he has those baseline dramatic pauses because he's an orator. He's the greatest spokesperson ever. He can tell you they just tested on you in real time, and you'll say, "I'm good. Yeah, I'm part of the club now. We did it for the team." I remember people saying Nuremberg Code violations, crimes against humanity. They might have been right. I might still like to say they said it too early because they didn't have all of the information that we have now, but maybe they were just a little bit more ahead of the curve than I was. Here's the latest, by the way, just because science, we're moving at the speed of science, which means moving recklessly fast, lying to you in the process, and experimenting on you in real time for the data that we needed before we told you it was safe and effective to take it for the continued human experimentation. Listen to this. Here we go. Just check the date. I just want to make sure I got the right date. This is November 12th, 2022. That's 2 days ago. That's Saturday. Myocarditis after COVID vaccination. Research on possible long-term risks underway. Oh, there's the speed of science, and then there's the speed of putting the carriage in front of the horse. 2 years now, close to 2 years, let's just say a year and a half, after injecting this into how many billions of people? Now they're going to do some research on myocarditis. But watch the spin. Listen to the spin, or I guess read the spin. Both Pfizer and Moderna are launching clinical trials to track health issues, if any, are wordsmiths of the devil, enemy of the people. I remember thinking when people called the MSM enemy of the people, it was a little strong. They're trying to track any health. They're trying to track health issues, if any. I'm sorry. Is this ABC or NBC? I keep getting this up. I'm sorry, Peacock News. Do you not read the news? It's not a question of if any. It's a question of how much. That same Stalin doctor that we saw at the beginning said it's a little risk. 1 in 5,000. 1 in 5,000. 1 in 5,000 more, Kieran. Just a little risk. I'm going to play it, and then we're going to go back. Just so that, it's repetitive to some.
I just recommend it to everybody instead of saying it's a personal decision.
Because
a little risk.
We're doing a risk-based approach.
A little risk.
What's the risk?
The risk, there's always a risk to having any therapeutic, having any therapeutic versus a benefit. You want to make sure there's a very strong benefit versus the risk. If we're an 18-year-old healthy individual, the risk to getting hospitalized if we have no medical illness is very, very low. We know there is a risk, a very small risk, 1 in 5,000 that may get myocarditis, for example, and you'd have to have that discussion on the risk benefit of a complication from the vaccine
when is
versus
this from?
the benefit of decreased hospitalization.
When is this from?
I just recommend it to everybody.
It's from July. When is today's article from? if any. In July, Dr. Kieran Moore publicly asserts there's a very small risk of myocarditis. 1 in 5,000 is not small, you jackass. I'm sorry, I said jackass. 1 in 5,000 is not small. If I have a very small chance of winning the lottery and it's 1 in 5,000, holy sweet merciful goodness, am I buying up lottery tickets? If I have a small risk of 1 in 5,000 of taking a poison jelly bean out of a jar of 5,000, holy sweet merciful goodness, I'm not taking that chance. That's not small, but at least Dr. Kieran Moore, back in July, acknowledged it's a therapeutic, acknowledged a very small risk, 1 in 5,000 per dose, by the way. Rack that up if you take 3 doses in a row. It's flipping a coin. It's 50-50. I forget how to finish that analogy. It's not random. It's cumulative. 1 in 5,000 per dose, as per German studies. Oh, but now NBC News, Peacock News. Not that they're covering for Pfizer and Moderna, although I think Pfizer and Moderna probably sponsor some of their, or some of their advertisers. If I had to venture, hashtag brought to you by Pfizer, the health issues, if any, in the years, both Pfizer and Moderna are now, just put in the word now, launching clinical trials to track health issues. If any, there are in the years following a diagnosis of vaccine-associated heart problems in teens. But I was told that they don't exist. Oh, yes, right. You've left it to doubt with the if any. It's not if any. We know it. We knew it. We've known it for a while. You're liars. NBC. Liars, pathological liars, and I might even go on a limb and say arguably criminally negligent liars, because you're lying to protect your sponsors, because your sponsors are Pfizer and other pharma companies. Yeah, just this is how corruption works, people. It's no longer a briefcase in some dark basement in, Tony Montana's. No, it's not Tony Montana. Fat Tony. What's Fat Tony's last name in The Simpsons? That doesn't matter. Let me just see what's going on here. It's no longer the cartoonish corruption. It's institutionalized corruption. Got to protect your advertisers, so when you're delivering the bad news, leave some room for doubt. Hope it disappears. But by the way, we knew. In October 2021, Devon Miller was found unconscious in the bathroom of his home in Detroit a week after receiving his first dose of Pfizer's COVID vaccine. He had known something was wrong. Then at 22, he started experiencing chest pain 2 days after getting vaccinated, followed by fatigue, shortness of breath, and dizziness. So I'm sorry, you're giving a testament of a concrete example of someone who suffered an adverse reaction, and in your header, you're putting in the qualifier, if any, when you know that there are at least one. Oh, no, we don't know if that could have been long COVID. It could have been long COVID, conveniently and perfectly timed, right after his first shot. Who knows? Who knows? Causation does not equal correlation. Correlation does not equal causation, as the insanity goes. Well, I'm going to get back to that. I just want to see that we're all good on Rumble, and we are. Okay. Tom McDonald, I just got a notification. 2 new albums drop on Friday. Okay. Yeah. So they got at least one example, but who knows? Correlation does not equal causation. Everybody who has an adverse reaction, correlation does not equal causation. Abolish the verse. Miller is one of a very small group of people in the United States who've experienced myocarditis. Well, I've seen at least 3 videos of people who've done it in the last week following their vaccination with Pfizer BioNTech or the Moderna COVID vaccines based on mRNA technology. Myocarditis is a condition that has been linked to a number. Oh, here you go. Plant the seed of doubt again. And from what I understand, by the way, there is maybe some debate as to whether or not the Rona can cause the myo, but set that aside. I'm not a doctor and I see conflicting reports. Myocarditis is a condition that has been linked to a number of viral infections, including influenza. Coxsackie viruses. I never get that. You never get too old to laugh when you hear Coxsackie virus. Sorry. There's a place in New York State also that, what is it called? I think it's called Coxsackie. And it's funny. As well as COVID. It has also been observed as an infrequent but worrisome side effect of the mRNA COVID vaccines. I'm sorry, you're affirming something right here that you questioned in your title. Liars, wordsmith of the devil, enemy of the people. Are there any long-term risks of myocarditis? Yes. I'm not a doctor. You can just listen to one of the 3 doctors that I've interviewed: Francis Christian, Harvey Reich, Robert Malone. Who else? I know I had another doctor that I can't remember. Of the hundreds of millions of COVID vaccine doses given in the US since late 2020, there have been around 1,000 reports of vaccine bullshit. There have been more than that. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, most of those who develop the condition have fully recovered. I'm sorry, that presupposes the conclusion that you can fully recover from it. There are a lot of people who say there are long-term lingering statistics which are very troublesome to anybody who has suffered from myocarditis or pericarditis. Although research so far has only looked at how well they're doing after several months, some doctors wonder if it can cause permanent damage to the heart. No, some doctors don't wonder that. It would seem that most doctors know that it can cause permanent damage to the heart. Now, the first research in the US is underway tracking adverse health effects, if any, that may appear in the years following the diagnosis of a vaccine-associated heart problem. Can we just appreciate this sentence right here? Now, the first research in the US is underway tracking adverse health effects that may appear in the years following a diagnosis of vaccine-associated heart problems. When you said it was safe and effective, what was that based on? If you hadn't done this tracking adverse effects, health effects, what was the statement that it's safe and effective based on? Not a hard question. Anyone of the blue checkmark journalist jackass is going to ask that question of Albert Bourla, Justin Trudeau, Joe Biden, of Rachel Maddow, who's out there saying that the jab prevents transmission. If you are only now doing the research, if only now it's underway tracking adverse health effects, based upon what were we told that it was safe and effective? I mean, Moderna has already launched 2 trials. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were told that the trials were already done. The most recent in September. Pfizer confirmed that at least one of its trials, which will include up to 500 teens and young adults under 21, is slated to begin in the next couple of months. Well, at least we know that they've clinically tested on us already. They have a very broad sample pool. Thanks, Obama. You made it sound so good. They've required drug makers to conduct. The FDA has required that the drug makers conduct several studies assessing the potential long-term impacts of myocarditis as part of its approval for the mRNA vaccine. Oh, I'm sorry, FDA. Am I going crazy? Am I going crazy? FDA, the Pfizer-BioNTech authorized for administration as third-party series. I'm not going crazy. I'm certain. I thought the FDA had already approved it. I'm going to have to. I want to make sure that, I mean, this seems like something so basic that I should remember offhand. I thought that either way. Maybe someone in the chat's going to help me with this. Hold on. I thought FDA had. I mean, I feel stupid now because I'm blacking. I'm. Hold on. Let me just go to the chat and see this. Did the FDA not approve it? Am I going totally crazy? Yeah, they've approved it for emergency use. That much I understand. They approved Comirnaty, which is not available. Okay, fine. That's right. It's losing my mind a little bit sometimes. Okay, let's just bring this back up. Oh, cripe. Now I have to find the link. Spaghetti monster, no COVID. I'm not even gonna be able to find that window. So let me just stop this. Open up a new one. I got too many windows in the background. I can't even find that one among the other ones. NBC News. Okay, let's just. We're gonna finish with this because we're gonna get to the punchline of all of this. I'm sweating. My goodness, is it a good thing that I'm wearing a black shirt today? Because I'm sweating and it's enraging. Guinea pigs. The FDA has required required that the drug makers conduct several studies assessing the potential long-term impacts of myocarditis as part of its approval for the mRNA COVID vaccines in the early yada yada. Okay, good. Some of the trials will follow those who developed the condition for as long as 5 years. Oh, safe and effective. No, there you go. We know what's needed for safe and effective. According to the FDA's approval letters, the trials will be monitoring for myocarditis and subclinical myocarditis, which doesn't cause any symptom. I'm going to go get my heart checked. Problem is, I might have inflammation of the heart just because of high energy frustration in life. The FDA declined to comment on Pfizer and Moderna studies because they're ongoing, but an agency official said the chance of having myocarditis occur following vaccinations is very low, very low. 1 in 5,000. Do the freaking math. If it's 1 in 5,000, just do the math. That is 1 in 5. I can't even do the math. There is no LSA. The condition does not lead to cardiac-related death, the official said, as claimed by Florida Surgeon General. Oh, really? That's why they're telling young people to urgently go get their hearts checked all of a sudden. That's why SADS has now become something that everyone has heard of when no one had heard of it previously. There's no evidence of increased risk of deaths following mRNA vaccine compared to individuals who did not get vaccinated. How do they know that? In fact, evidence from well-conducted, peer-reviewed, published studies suggests that the risk of death is higher for unvaccinated individuals for nearly every group. Oh. Okay, the vast majority, yada, 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 yada. Okay. Vaccine-associated myocarditis is usually milder than viral type, and most people with the condition make a full recovery, said Dr. Nicole Klein, a vaccine expert at Kaiser Permanente. I know that there's a debate about this, and I don't want to get into it for today. Maybe one day we'll have a doctor on who can do it. Maybe Dr. Nicola Klein will come on. Let me screen grab so I can get her reach out on Twitter, but whatever. I might be too toxic for her to reply to. In some cases, people who've developed myocarditis after a viral infection can suffer scarring along the heart's tissues, reducing its ability to pump blood and circulate oxygen around the body, said Dr. Leslie Cooper, the chair of the Department of Cardiology at the Mayo Clinic. Can we read that again, by the way, and everyone understand what's going on here? They tell you that myocarditis is temporary, mild, can be fully resolved, while then telling you all the way at the end of this article, in some cases, people who've developed myocarditis, let's just leave out the word after viral infection. People who've developed myocarditis can suffer scarring along the heart's tissues, reducing its ability to pump blood and circulate oxygen around the body. Oh, I'm sorry, because I thought earlier on in this article, you told us that myocarditis can be mild and it goes away. And here, what you're saying is myocarditis after viral infection, although I suspect it's not much different, if at all, than after a jibby jab myocarditis-induced myocarditis. I suspect it's not any different. So it can scar the heart, reduce its ability to pump blood, and circulate oxygen around the body. That's not good for you. Like I'm no doctor. That's not good for you. But wait, just let's let all that sink in for a second. Suggestion: when you leave YouTube, you say, "We'll close down here, but we don't want to get to the point where here is Rumble." But don't we want to get to the point where here is Rumble and not YouTube? I'm just going to say we're closing down on YouTube. I'll keep it simple. Zorosper says it's been a while. Okay, sorry. I saw this. But just let that article stew for a bit. When I see you get pissed, I smile because I love seeing someone with a louder voice than mine saying what I say, but also sad because I hate that generally happy people have been forced to see these things and bring them down. Yep. I'm still happy, but I'm also very, very. Anger is not a bad thing when it's directed and tempered. I'm quite frustrated at the state of the world. And if someone now does not read that article and get angry, something's wrong with them. Studies from autopsies from Jay Thomas, thank you for the. I won't read it aloud. I don't want anyone accusing me of dispensing medical advice. It's the internet. I can never vet a super chat qualifications, but I know what I've seen as well. Thank you, Jay Thomas. So if anybody reads that and doesn't get angry, you've got a problem. And it might be that you're blind. It might be that you're you lack critical thinking, or it might be that you have been victimized by this entire process. And the easiest way to deal with the fact that you have been victimized is to pretend that you haven't been victimized, or that somehow the sacrifice, not the sacrifice that you gave, but the sacrifice that was fraudulently duped out of you, is somehow worth it. You have to convince yourself it's somehow worth it because you can't take it back. It's like asking the football player who has, CTE at the end of their life, would you do it again? Well, I don't really have that choice. So I have to rationalize my trauma in one of two ways. Get angry about it, try to make changes, ignore it, pretend it's not there, or rationalize it and say, hey, it's the lesser of the evils. It had to be done for the greater good. But wait until you do this. Wait until we see this. And then after this, we're going to move over to Rumble. They're doing the test now. Doing the test to see if the Rona, not the Rona, let me take that back. If the jibby jab might cause the myo, the inflammation of the heart. They're doing it now. Why do I have the same article 3 times? That's not the article. They're doing the test now. Let me just set it up again. They're saying it now. Y'all remember what they said back in 2021? I've always said this. There's 2 types of lies. There's the lie when you say something that you know is not true. Okay, who broke the vase? Jimmy did it. When I know that I did it, that's a lie. There's a lie when you say something and you have no reason to know that it's true. Who broke the vase? If I have no idea and I say Jimmy did it, that's a lie, but not because I know the truth, but because I have no reason for knowing the truth, and asserting that I know the truth is a lie because I have no reason, no basis to purport to know the truth. This is from November 2021, November 27th. Is it actually? Oh, it's almost a year to the day. K5, and by the way, I thought K5 was like I was going to say a fake news website, but it is, because it's still the frickin' Peacock MSM garbage, covering up for their sponsors and protecting the people that pay them. It's a legitimate. It's a legitimate news. Legit. It's legit. No, the COVID-19 vaccine does not cause myocarditis. There's no equivocation here. There's no qualification here. The headline is no. The COVID-19 vaccine does not cause myocarditis. November 2021. Having COVID-19 makes you 16 times more likely to get myocarditis, a potentially deadly heart condition. Oh, I'm sorry. I was told myocarditis is nothing. It's mild. It goes away. If you've gotten it from the jibby jab, don't worry. You'll be fine. Take some meds and go get your booster. Myocarditis is commonly cited as a factor in COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy. But should it be? Let's verify. Oh, tell me how you're going to verify when the studies have not been started for another year. I feel like this is like Back to the Future, except in real time. We have the beauty of being able to travel back in time, except we're only yelling at the people in the present. Our sources are the 2 major studies on the issue, one out of Israel and one out of the CDC, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Yeah. Vollemore describes myocarditis as an inflammation in your heart muscle that can range in symptoms from being very mild to more serious, requiring hospitalization for heart failure, and in worst cases, even death. It's mild, temporary, goes away. But every now and again, it might require hospitalization for heart failure. Just that little thing that keeps you going. Just that little thing that pumps the blood all around, oxygenates your body, your brain. You know what every death is caused by? I think it was one of those Trivial Pursuit questions. What is the clinical cause of all death? So like not cancer, not falling off a building. The clinical cause of all death is lack of oxygen to the brain. You know what carries oxygen to the brain? The blood that your heart pumps. You can live without a heart. You can put a machine in there to be determined whether or not you can live without a brain. Some people seem to be doing very well with that affliction. Okay, so here. Oh, by the way, in general, your odds of getting it are slim. About 10 to 20 in 100,000. hold on a second. In general, your odds of getting it are slim, but once you have COVID, the CDC proved it's astronomically higher. Okay, so hold on. I don't understand what this means here. In general, your odds of getting it are slim from the vaccine, or just in general? And what is 10 to 20 in 100,000? I mean, that almost sounds like it's 1 in 5,000, almost 1 in 5,000 to 1 in 10,000. Did they not literally just say that the headline said it doesn't cause it? Okay, I don't understand what the sentence means reading it. Conversely, there is no proof that there's any relationship between the COVID vaccines and myocarditis. Of course not, because when you look for anything else, it could have been, as some wise internet Twitter man told me, it could have been caused by the burrito they ate yesterday. In fact, the study from Israel is often falsely used as proof that the vaccine can give you myocarditis. What the study actually showed is that the incidence rate of myocarditis among vaccinated people was 2 per 100,000, about 8 times lower than the average incident rate. It did reveal that men 16 to 29 were the most likely to get myocarditis after being vaccinated. I'm sorry. Am I going crazy, or did your headline say, no, the COVID vaccine does not cause myocarditis? Anyways, I'm done. It's funny. Valamur sounds like Voldemort. Summarized, it's simply saying, what I can tell you is myocarditis, when it occurs, is typically mild. But I mean, this is pathological. It's pathological. They tell you, no, it doesn't happen. But yes, it does happen when you read through the article. And that's a year before they've even done the studies to determine whether or not it's happening and to what extent. We know that it's happening. We knew back into, I want to see when the first diagnosed cases were. We knew. This is like going back to another era. We didn't know. No, nobody gets to say we didn't know. Things came out slowly. Things came out later. But the timeline of what we knew and when we knew it is quite clear and cannot be memory hold. Did I spit on my hand? I didn't spit on my hand. We didn't know. I was trying to find what movie it was from, or I thought I had seen historical images of people of a different era as they were being liberated by Allied forces, carrying around signs saying, we didn't know. We didn't know what our government was doing. We didn't know what was going on. Well, history never repeats, but it tends to rhyme. Well, I'm sure there are some people who judge me for my decision, but it was. Let me see something here. We got this. I'm not your buddy guy says, it's scary knowing most world governments are on board with this and most are with the WEF. It's disturbing that they keep saying there are too many people. There's that argument. Like Bill Gates comes out and talks about population control, reducing the population. Like that's why would I ever? That's like trusting, taking ant farming advice from an exterminator. Anyhow, okay. I think that is willful ignorance. Let me see if I didn't have anything more on that subject before we end on YouTube and mosey on over to Rumble. Oh, I'm gonna repost that Obama clip later today. I'm gonna keep that up in the backdrop. No, I think we're good. We've done enough here. Before we go to Rumble, fieldofgreens.com. Promo code VIVA. Get something that will not cause myocarditis, something that will actually make your heart and your body healthier. But it doesn't hurt to be healthy, exercise. I'm going to go for my exercise today. I've been away. My wife has been away at a neuroscience conference, and I've been with the kids. And it's very difficult. Like parenting is a 2-person job, and to find the time to exercise is tough. But I'm going to exercise today. Okay, let's do it. Let's mosey on over. Everyone's got the link to Rumble. Let me put it right here. There's a Rumble rant that I missed. Son of a beasting. Let me see here if I can go back. We got it right here. Rumble rant. $2. Medic Deb. Are our blood banks tainted with this mRNA blood? I had never thought about that. That would be interesting. I mean, that's going to be the next study to see is like, could it? Okay, I won't even venture into science fiction or what might be science in the future. The Potato Accent Channel. The Potato Accent Channel Nobody even talk about miscarriages having gone up by 322% since the jab, according to a 2021 March British study. And there's a link. I talked about the Scottish study. That was a $5 Rumbrand. Thank you very much. Medic Deb had a $2 Rumbrand. Thank you very much. I talked about that Scottish study. Oh, but they've already determined it's not jibby jab related. So, okay, let us go to the dark side, children. Okay, let's go to Rumble. I'm going to end it on YouTube. And everyone, the party shall continue at Rumbles, where we're going to get into Angry Viva and Justin Trudeau. And history not repeating, but most certainly rhyming. More than the ignorant buffoons that object to the analogy can even fully appreciate. Removing. 3, 2, 1. See you on Rumble. We're on Rumble. I think we're alone now. There doesn't seem to be. Okay. Oh. We're back to the euthanasia in Canada. It's the euthanasia that is going to be graciously, thoughtfully, liberally allowed for the mentally ill. And I say mentally ill with absolutely no judgment whatsoever for mental illness. It is going to be offered to the mentally ill. Mental illness in law, just so everybody understands this, it is or can be a cause for vitiating consent in contracts. If someone is known to be in a manic state and someone gets them to sell a valuable jewel, can't think. What's the word I'm looking for? Not paraphernalia. What's it called? Sports paraphernalia? Memorabilia, not paraphernalia. Sorry. Pissed Off Dragon is back in the house. He's not leaving me alone. I wish one day I'll be able to highlight the comments in here easily without having to use an OBS software, which I'm not doing. It's a known fact that if someone is a known manic depressive or a manic bipolar and is in a stage and someone gets them to sell a Joe DiMaggio, original rookie card for $1 because the guy's feeling on top of the world that day, you can nullify a sale. It can vitiate contracts. It can also render you, in criminal law, not criminally responsible for your actions that were committed under a state of frenzy mental illness. Don't worry about all that. That's fine. It's good enough for the Trudeau regime to allow an individual to euthanize themselves with the assistance of the state. People are out there saying, "Oh, but there's checks and balances." There's checks and balances. They're not going to let someone who's mentally ill flippantly end their lives. It's going to be rigorous. It's going to get 2 doctors' approvals. They're not going to do it on someone who is not fully willing. They're already doing it, by the way. They're already authorizing it and implementing it on people who are clearly doing it not because they want to die, but because they can no longer go on living under the crappy healthcare system, under the crappy government healthcare system that the government has bestowed on all Canadians. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to go to my Twitter feed. I'm done being polite. It's my pinned tweet. Let's just bring this one up. History does not repeat, but it often rhymes. And people are just ignorant. They don't know what they don't know. To be wrong and to be right feels exactly the same right up until the time you realize you were wrong. This is just a headline from Forbes. Canada's new euthanasia laws carry upsetting Nazi-era echoes, warns expert. I think that my problem is I'm too direct. If I were more eloquent like Forbes, if I just said, it's the Canada's euthanasia laws, they carry upsetting Nazi-era echoes, people wouldn't get mad. If I say Justin Trudeau is the modern-day Hitler, not because he's identical, but because he's implementing very similar policy that some people just don't know about because they're ignorant, and then they take publicly to speak ignorantly, not knowing their own ignorance. Maybe if I were more eloquent, it would be a more digestible message. And maybe I think I've gone through the eloquent stage, and I'm done with the eloquent stage. Canada's new euthanasia laws carry upsetting Nazi-era echoes, warns experts. Oh, here's another one. Here's another one from National Post. First reading. This is August 2022. Canada is getting real comfortable with killing its disabled. That's a little more direct. Ontario hospital staff appear to pressure a patient to opt for euthanasia in new secretly recorded audio. Don't worry. It will always be by pure consent in full awareness of fact. They will not take advantage of mentally ill people to egg them on into medical assistance in dying. No. Canada is getting real comfortable with killing its disabled. Do you know what other regime was very comfortable killing its disabled? Oh, some people don't compare it to Hitler. Don't compare it to Nazi Germany, because they don't yet have camps and they don't yet have trains. And Justin Trudeau doesn't have a mustache. So you can't compare him, because Hitler was exponentially worse. And therefore, you cannot make any, draw any analogies, see any similarities between what were the inhumane genocidal policies of Hitler and the inhumane policies of Justin Trudeau today. Many people don't. I'm going to go to another source that's not Acton. That's not Wikipedia. But let's read this and substitute the dates and the names mutatis mutandis. The legal basis for the program, it was called Action T4, and we're going to get to why it was called Action T4, was the Nazi government mercy killing the mentally disabled, the mentally ill, before its genocide against Jews, blacks, gypsies, Poles, and others. This was before. It was called Action T4 because the building where they administered this was the address was T4 something. We'll get there. The legal basis for the program was a 1939 letter from Hitler, not a formal Führer's decree with the force of law. Hitler bypassed Conti, the health minister, and his department, who might have raised questions about the legality of the program, and entrusted it to Buhler and Brent. So here, let's just tease out the not analogous. Oh, so it was not a formal decree. It wasn't the force of law. In Canada, we debated it in the legislature, and they actually debated before the legislature. Well, hold on a second. We don't want to discriminate against people with mental illness by denying them their ability to end their lives, not because of disease or whatever, but because of mental illness and pain and suffering. It's totally different. Hitler, when he did it, bypassed the law. We made it the law, therefore it's legal. Okay, not identical, not repeating, but it rhymes just a tad. Just a tad. Reich leader Buhler and Dr. Brandt are entrusted with the responsibility of extending the authority of physicians to be designated by name, so that patients who, after a most critical diagnosis, on the basis of human judgment, menschlichen Ermessen, are considered incurable, can be granted mercy death. Adolf Hitler, September 1, 1939. They called it mercy death. Justin Trudeau has gone with another euphemism, MAIDs, medical assistance in dying. It's totally different. It's totally different. Now, it's totally different because surely it will always be consensual. It will always be by consent. Surely the government's not going to euthanize people against their will. Surely the government would not authorize MAIDs, not mercy killing. That's got a bad connotation. MAIDs. Surely the government would not authorize medical assistance in dying unless the individual wanted it, and unless doctors approved it. It will not be involuntary. Oh, all right. Well, here's one perspective from a mentally ill individual, or let me rephrase, from an individual suffering from mental illness. The government is not protecting me from myself because I want to kill myself at this point in time. Because I might be going through mental distress, mental illness at this point in time, does not mean that when I get through this bout of mental illness, because that's what it is, that I will feel the same way then. And no one is protected. And there are people who suffer from mental illness saying, my goodness, the Trudeau government is not protecting me from myself during my most vulnerable times. In fact, they are exploiting it because it's cheaper to do it than it is to provide the care that they need. And don't take my word for it. We're going to get to another clip in a second.
Created that provides a pathway to death. I have a patient right now who is saying, I would never kill myself on my own, but I will kill myself with MAID because that's not suicide.
I was like, oh, like this is like way less stressful, and I get to like work in a field that's like helping more people.
Sorry, it was recorded off TV.
Is afraid of dying too. This 24-year-old university graduate works part-time and is about to leave Vancouver for an internship in Ottawa. But as someone with depression, anxiety, and borderline personality disorder, she fears the new legislation won't protect her from herself.
Because I experienced suicidality
Cue dramatic.
so often, I have an understanding that if I wanted to access MAID, that I could, in a time of suicidality, and I'd probably be successful at it.
You're afraid.
That's one. These are people who are saying, I might feel vulnerable. I might want this now in a state of manic, whatever, depression, but in a state of rational thought. On a better day, I would never want it. But now not only do I not have the government protecting me from myself, I have the government exploiting me at my weakest, most vulnerable moment. And they might just have a financial interest in doing it. Just wait until there's a market. Just wait until there's a market for body parts, for organ transplants. Yeah, it was the most disgusting black pill that I ever woke up to. Was the black market behind aborted fetal product, body parts. Wait. There, I pulled up the study a while ago. I won't find it now. But it says, don't worry, this is not going to cost taxpayers money. This might actually save money. And just wait until there becomes a market for organ donors or a political government interest. Well, what do you think is going to happen then? Get rid of the useless eaters. Exploit people at their most vulnerable to end their lives, save some money in the healthcare system. Oh, and look at this. There might yet develop a market for those. We don't want to waste the body parts. Don't want to waste a good heart. I mean, the person was mentally ill. They still had a healthy heart. Let's wait until that starts happening. But no. Yeah, there already is, Jane said. I try not to make categorical statements about things that I'm not entirely certain, but what was I just about to say? Oh yeah, no, but how dare I, as a Jewish individual, so how dare I make that horrible analogy? How dare I suggest there's anything even remotely similar between euthanizing the mentally ill today under Trudeau, under MAID, medical assistance in dying, and Hitler euthanizing the mentally ill in 1939, calling it mercy killings? How dare I? I had a wonderful exchange with someone on Twitter where they say, "Oh, you're proving your ignorance. You know nothing about any of the Holocaust. It's disgusting that you make such an analogy." It's like, well, first of all, it's not intended to be identical because there are material differences. But this is not a case of, well, Hitler drank coffee also. This is not a stupid, well, Hitler breathed air. Hitler was a vegetarian too. This is not a stupid one. This is a policy of euthanizing the mentally ill. There are only so many leaders on earth that can take credit for implementing such a policy. Someone tries to shame me. How dare you? I say, well, first of all, there's that. And then there's the fact that I don't talk about it very often. It's really not anybody's business. It doesn't make my opinion more or less legitimate. But if you're going to accuse me of not knowing better, I happen to be Jewish. My happened to have escaped Poland in 1936, was the only member of his 25 member family that escaped. We had another one, Esther Freiheiter, who also escaped. They wrote a book about it, or not there. Her family wrote a book about it. I just, happened to be second generation. My grandfather, born in, I think it was Austria, became Poland, and then after World War II became part of the Ukraine. Just happened to have that. And so maybe I'm not speaking from a position of ignorance. Life experience, minor in Eastern European history, reasonably well educated. Maybe I'm not speaking from a point of ignorance. Maybe. And then it's the classic, well, then you should know better. No, when you get caught being an idiot, then you should. No, maybe I do know a little bit better than people who don't know the history. It's not identical. It never will be identical. But there are very few leaders on earth who get to take credit for implementing policy of euthanizing the mentally ill. And then it goes back to, oh, well, no, Hitler, it was forced euthanasia. It was forced killing. It wasn't consensual. Let's go back to the legal argument. You think that's purely hypothetical? Oh, you got someone in a state of mental distress who is consenting to something that they would never consent to in a moment of clarity, in a state of well-being. That's not consensual. That is non-consensual euthanasia. Just understand that, and you might be one step closer to understanding the real issue here. That's one case. How about the cases where it's the government pushing it on vulnerable people? Oh, they wouldn't do that either. They wouldn't do that either. The government's good. The government has our best interest at heart. The government wouldn't exploit vulnerable people into euthanizing themselves if they didn't actually want it. Oh, except for that veteran who called up a helpline and the individual on the other end of the line suggested, have you ever thought about killing yourself? Oh, but that's an anomaly. Justin Trudeau comes out and apologizes for that. It's all an anomaly until it's not an anomaly, until it's reality. But don't take my word for it. Yeah, consensual, except it's not consensual when you get someone in a state of mental distress where they cannot consent. It's not voluntary. It's not consensual euthanasia at that point. It might not be compelled, but it's certainly not consensual in law. But the government would never push it, eh? Hold on. The government would never push it. I had to double check this story because I saw the video, and because I'm an absolute neurotic individual, I have to make sure that this is real.
Amir Farsood has applied for medically assisted dying, known as MAID. He lives in constant agony due to a back injury, but has started the process for end of life because his rooming house is up for sale and he can't find anywhere else to live that he can afford. He barely survives on Ontario disability support payments, which are just over $1,200 a month. He doesn't want to die, but being homeless is not an option.
Well, hey, imagine that if the government approves his death and he actually goes through with it, they can save $1,200 a month on this individual.
I know in my present health condition, I wouldn't survive it anyway.
Farsood meets the criteria for MAID: physical suffering due to disability that cannot be relieved. His doctor, who knows Farsood's real reason for MAID is his fear of being homeless, signed off on the application in August.
Oh, they wouldn't authorize it for someone who doesn't really want it. Consensual. If anybody who looks at this and says it's consensual, you are justifying and tolerating euthanasia. It's state-sanctioned murder. Sorry. He only got one doctor to sign off, though. He didn't yet get a second doctor.
Farsood needs a second to do the same. There's a 90-day waiting period. He believes he could potentially access MAID in about a month.
I don't wish to be dead. Even with the pain, even with the meds, I still want to be here.
Amir Farsood.
Now, I had to look it up, by the way. So he only has one of the two doctors. One doctor signed off on it already. I'm just like, what does anyone say to that? And by the way, incidentally, Amir Farsood, there's a GoFundMe set up for his benefit from a third party. I went to look it up. I asked, I emailed because I'm not going, first of all, I don't want to support GoFundMe, period. But I'm also not going to promote any entity, any fundraiser started by a third party without verifying it myself. So I've reached out to the third party, asked for some detail, the third party organizing it, asked for some details, and asked if they can give my email address to Amir Farsood. Because first of all, I've got questions and I would like to help. But I don't trust fundraisers that are started by third parties if I don't have independent verifications, whatever. So to be continued, put a what's the word? Parentheses closed. But by the way, appreciate that this causes another problem. And it's not, people could conceivably predators, parasites, disingenuous people, once this policy gets implemented, can use it as a fund. Oh, I'm going to apply to maids if I don't get a GoFundMe to pay for things in life. This is, you create a market, you create a demand, and you create corruption. That's how it works. Amir Farsood, this individual, if he's being sincere, and I have no reason to doubt that he is, because he's not the first and he definitely will not be the last, is saying, I can't live under this universal health care. I'm in poverty, I'm in pain, I'm about to lose my place, and I don't want to end up on the street. Hey, government's got a solution for that. And it's not being better at what they're supposed to be providing by way of services. In Canada, there's an expression in law, or not an expression, there's a philosophy, a maxim, not a philosophy, that's definitely the wrong word. There's a principle in law. It's cheaper to kill someone than it is to injure them. So you'll take a second to think about that. It's a legal, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a black pill of law. In Canada, it's cheaper to kill someone by accident than it is to injure them. When you injure them, you've got to pay for, you've got to compensate them going forward for the rest of their life. When you kill someone in Canada, it's not worth all that much. It's not like the States. Wrongful deaths, they don't pay what they pay in the States. Well, it's funny. When it comes to healthcare, we're now seeing that same principle put into practice. It's cheaper to kill someone than it is to keep them alive under the system. This guy is having problems that nobody really should have in a Western rich country. We have hundreds of millions to ship off to foreign conflict, but we can't take care of our own citizens. And I'm saying we, because I'm not just saying Trudeau. This is a broader problem than that. It's cheaper to kill someone than it is to keep them alive. And this individual right now, the system is failing him. The government that is supposed to provide free healthcare for all is failing him. And what's the government's solution? We can kill you. It's called euthanasia, and you've consented to it. So, sorry, that's on you. Yeah, we don't need to read that article. We've read that before. But by the way, some people don't fully appreciate. Am I sharing this? No, I'm not sharing it yet. Hold on. What's the problem here? Am I? No, I'm not sharing it yet. Some people don't appreciate the Nazi era euthanasia program. I mean, I'll share the link. I wanted to get something a little bit more thorough than Wikipedia. Program to murder people with disabilities. Holocaust Encyclopedia. The euthanasia program was the systemic murder of institutionalized patients with disabilities in Germany. It predated the genocide of European Jewry by 2 years, one of the most radical eugenic measures which aimed to restore the racial integrity of the German. Oh, it's totally different than what's going on now. Now it's for the benefit of the vulnerable. It aimed to eliminate what eugenicists and their supporters considered life unworthy of life. Those individuals who they believed, because of severe psychiatric, neurological, and physical disabilities, represented both a genetic and a financial burden on German society and the state. I'll give you the link. It was this propaganda at the end that's just Leben nur als Laft. This photo originates from a film produced by the Reich propaganda ministry. It shows two doctors in a ward in an unidentified asylum. The existence of the patients in the ward is described as life only as a burden. Such propaganda images were intended to develop public sympathy for the euthanasia program. Is that rhyming enough for anybody? Is that rhyming enough for anybody? But let me just bring up the kicker, because still, the government would not abuse of this program for its own benefits. It's only going to be for the most exceptional cases when the person brings it up themselves, not so the government can save a few bucks. It's not going to be the government pushing it, pressuring individuals until it is. Here, listen to this.
Foley went from being active and healthy to disabled and helpless. Roger Foley went from being active and healthy to disabled and helpless because of a rare neurological disease. He wants assisted home care. Instead, he says he's being offered a medically assisted death.
I have not received the care that I need to relieve my suffering and only been offered assisted dying.
If I had self-directed funding, then I'd be fine.
But if you weren't, you can just apply to get a assisted. If you want it in your life, like, you know, I mean, you don't have to do it in some dramatic manner. You can apply for assisted, you know.
We'll make it easy for you.
Foley is told he will be charged more than $1,500 a day if he doesn't go home, with the suggestion he can apply for the right to die.
What's the plan that you know of?
Roger, this is not my show. I told you my piece of this was to talk to you about if you had interest in assisted dying.
In essence, the tape speaks about encouraging him or asking him if he's interested in assisted dying, rather than working with him to provide the services that he needs. So it's clear as a lawyer that the safeguards are not sufficient to protect Canadians, and something needs to be done.
You've already violated my...
This ethicist reviewed the audio clips.
Sad and shocking.
Okay, it's possible. The audio is totally forged. The lawyer's representing a bogus case. It's possible there's, I don't know, some context that could attenuate the mundanity of the evil that we just witnessed. It's possible. By the way, the lawyer had Osgood Hall behind him as one of the Ontario law schools. It's possible there's something that we don't know of, that this is all just, it's a total fabrication. It's possible. More likely than not, because this is not the only story. This is exactly what's going on.
Tom Koch also worries that with growing pressure on health budgets, discussions like this may become more common.
When the issue of the care of the fragile becomes simply a matter of financial expediency, when we're given the option of a rapid death rather than a complex life, then we are all at risk.
It's so unsettling, Avis, but there must be guidelines.
Oh, there must be guidelines. The government wouldn't. Oh, there are guidelines, and they're being implemented. We saw the guidelines. They're being implemented, and not just that. The government's just pushing them. I've gotten calls of people saying that they have evidence that they're being pushed, induced, coerced, shamed into it. There are guidelines, and when it comes down to it, on paper, it'll be consensual.
Guidelines that we found say that patients have to volunteer for assisted death and that there should be no external pressure. Was there pressure put on here? Certainly Mr. Foley feels that way.
So the audio is obviously damning. What is the hospital saying?
Well, and we know that the hospital officials have had the tapes for about 2 weeks, and Mr. Foley and his lawyer haven't heard anything. We asked for a statement and we've not heard back.
Surely there's got to be a protocol. Yeah. You know what that protocol is? It's not illegal when the government does it. Viva, my data is cutting out. Let me see something here. That is from Karma Police. Okay. I don't know if it's my data or other people's or your data. It's not my data. It's yours, Karma. No, my internet has been very problematic, but I have not seen the little thing. Hold on, let me just say, have I been live the entire time on YouTube? Okay, no. I thought we'd been live on YouTube this entire time. Karma Police, I don't know if that's my data but it most likely is. AT&T, gotta fix that crap. Okay, it's been fine today. Good, Rob A says. So that's it. Let me just see if I have any further evidence to substantiate my comparison. Das ist das. No, that's the screen. I don't need it. Okay, I don't need that. Das ist das. I didn't even do that on purpose. Okay, so this is my Twitter feed. There have been other cases, by the way. There was a woman who was actually euthanized. Actually. For chemical sensitivity. For chemical sensitivity. Oh, we'll get to the suicide pod in a second. Hold on. Try to put it all together. You try not to have nefarious thoughts as to what is possibly going on. Google, woman euthanized, chemical sensitivity. This may be news to some of you, it may not. Woman with chemical sensitivities chose death. Do you know what chemical sensitivities is also referred to as? Allergies. I know there might be a clinical distinction in severity. A 51-year-old Ontario woman with severe sensitivities to chemicals chose medically assisted death after her desperate search for affordable housing free of cigarette smoke and chemical cleaners failed. Advocates say. Who knows? Could be a total lie. The government sees me as expendable trash, a complainer, useless, and a pain in the ass, Sophia said in a video filmed on February 14, 8 days before her death, and shared with CTV News by one of her friends. No, but it was consensual. She signed off on it, so the government is not to blame. No, but the government, I'm sure. Let's just see. Trudeau's invested. He's invested in mRNA manufacturing facilities. Let's just see when he starts investing in suicide pod facilities. You think I'm joking? I saw there was a tweet, and I forget whose it was, and I would love to give them the credit for the insight. In the future, they're gonna get you to voluntarily step into the suicide pod. It's going to be voluntary. When fascism comes, it's going to be cloaked in the banner of democracy, and when genocide comes, it's going to be cloaked in consent, because they're gonna get you to want to go in the pod. Listen to this. I mean, it's beyond sick. December 2021. Maker of suicide pod plans to launch in Switzerland, and it's so beautiful. Look at the image. It's in a field of grass with farm country behind it. Do you notice the 2/3, 1/3 framing? The grass takes up 2/3. The sky takes up 1/3. It's easy on the eyes, and it's beautiful. The nice calm blue with the blood red pill. The company behind a 3D printed pod, which can help carry out assisted suicide, has said it is confident it could be used in Switzerland as early as next year. Sarko commissioned a Swiss legal expert who found that the machine did not break any laws in that country, but other lawyers questioned his findings. An assisted suicide organization, Dignitas, said it would be unlikely to meet much acceptance. Assisted suicide, in which somebody is given the means to end their own life, is legal in Switzerland. About 1,300 people died in this way in 2020. Well, Canada's got you beat, Switzerland. 10,064 in 2021. This is amazing. The current method used in Switzerland is to provide the person with a series of liquids that, if ingested, will end the person's life. By contrast, the pod, which can be placed anywhere, is flooded with nitrogen, reducing the oxygen levels rapidly. It's literally a gas pod. The process would make the person inside lose consciousness and die in approximately 10 minutes. It's literally a gas pod. The suicide pod is activated from the inside and also has an emergency button to exit. Oh man, this is outrageous. If the machine gets the go-ahead for use in Switzerland, the pod will not be offered for sale in the conventional way. If the government's going to take care of it, don't worry. It'll be Futurama. You will just have death pods on the street for the public to use. And the government will make sure to approve it. It's consensual. They'll make sure to get a signature before they do it. Oh, okay. Man, that's enough to make your blood boil. But there's more. We're going to end on something of we're going to. Oh no, hold on. Just to show some of the art. I should not argue with everybody on the internet. This is the level of awareness of people. Justin Trudeau is proving himself to be the modern day Adolf Hitler. Literally, Action T4 was a campaign of mass murder by involuntary euthanasia. And understand, people, if someone cannot consent, it cannot be said to be voluntary. And if you have mentally ill people saying, I want this today, and when in a state of wellness, they say, I didn't want that then. It's not voluntary anymore. When you have the government pushing it on people, shaming them, arguably threatening them, coercing them, intimidating them, your life is good. You're going to be out of an apartment. Wouldn't you just want to end your life? It's not voluntary, people. You can call it voluntary because you have a signature on paper and it followed the protocol of the government. It's not voluntary. Where is involuntary euthanasia happening in Canada? You're just making things up right now. I replied to that somewhere, but I'm not. Where's it happening? It's happening. And it's almost too much for people to appreciate. And they just have to say, it's not happening. It's not involuntary. The mentally ill person said that they wanted it on that day. Oh, I forgot. Changing the subject slightly. There's a new study that came out of the Lancet. There's a new study that came out of the Lancet. Let me just click on it so I don't get accused of doing anything random. Here, let's look at this. Lancet, the same publication that said it was racist. They didn't say racist. They said it was conspiracy theory to suggest. Oh God, I hate cookies. The Lancet is the same publication that said it was conspiracy theory to suggest that the Rona originated in a lab in China and was man-made. They said it was conspiracy theory, undermined the effort of their Chinese counterparts to deal with the pandemic. 18 months later, put out another publication saying it's always been a totally plausible theory. Man-made gain of function developed in a lab in Wuhan, China. It's always been a perfectly plausible theory. 18 months after they said it's conspiracy theory to suggest it. The Lancet, in their latest piece of scientific mental gymnastics, protection from previous natural infection compared with mRNA vaccination against SARS-CoV-2 infection and severe COVID-19 in Qatar. A retrospective cohort study. So fancy. This is why the lawyers draft laws so that nobody can practice law. Scientists phrase things so that nobody can understand it. That's how people retain a monopoly over their practice. Understanding protection conferred by natural SARS-CoV-2 infection versus COVID-19 vaccination is important for informing vaccine mandate decisions. Yes, it is, you dumbasses, and thank you for stating the obvious. That's very important. Wait until you see. I'm not calling them dumbasses for this particular statement. I'm calling them dumbasses for their conclusion. Motivated reasoning, arguing from conclusions as opposed to towards them, saying, this is where I need to get. How do I get there? Even if it's a total non sequitur, we're going to get there. We compared protection conferred by natural infection versus that from the BioNTech and the mRNA flavin vaccines in Qatar. Methods, don't care. Findings. Forget the findings because that's also complicated. Interpretation. Previous natural infection was associated with lower incidence of SARS-CoV-2 infection, regardless of the variant, than mRNA primary series vaccination. Simply put, and I swear if I make a mistake on this, I'll publicly correct myself and shame myself. More simply put, natural infection associated with lower incidence of infection, regardless of the variant, than with mRNA primary series vaccination. More simply put, natural infection is better at protection than the vaccine. Okay, I'm no doctor. I'm just a lawyer with half a brain, but it seems to me a lot of people were saying that from a long time ago. Fine. That's not the idiotic part. That's just the science part. This is the idiotic part. Despite that, vaccination remains the safest and most optimal tool for protection against infections and COVID-19 related hospitalizations and death, irrespective of previous infection status. That went from science to bad religion real fast. Anyone want to try to make sense of that? Let me just see if anyone who's smarter than me in the chat can make sense of that. You know why you can't make sense of that? Because it doesn't make sense. Yep, natural infection provides greater immunity than primary series vaccination across the board, regardless of the variant. But vaccination is still the best, safest, most optimal tool for protection, regardless of whether or not you've been previously infected. Been previously infected a month ago? Doesn't matter. That's idiotic, unscientific, faith-based, dogmatic, bad religion, jackassery of science. These are the experts. We have to listen to them. Maybe I misunderstood something, but I didn't. This makes no effing sense. Dude, we have to get to the conclusion that we need to continue pushing the vaccination, irrespective of prior infection. I don't know, Doc. The science says that prior infection protects better than vaccination against all the variants. Okay, we're still going to push it, irrespective of prior infection. You're idiots. You're idiots. You deserve you deserve the mockery that you get, and maybe a little jail time, depending on what you knew and didn't know when you told people safe and effective, for all those people who suffered consequences. All right. Well, that wasn't the funny story of the day. The funny story of the day is this. Many of you may have seen this story. It's making the rounds on social media. From Mail Online. USA make a statement at the World Cup in Qatar by redesigning their crest with rainbow colors to show solidarity with the LGBTQ plus community. The United States, USMNT, what does that stand for? What does that stand for? I just got a notification from Timcast. Myocarditis studies launched after shocking stories of young men collapsing with heart issues. I beat you, Tim. No, I'm joking. It doesn't matter. Yeah, anybody with half a brain is going to pick up on that and be outraged. Okay, what is this? It doesn't matter. The United States men's national team, oh, that's what it stands for, have made a huge statement at the World Cup in Qatar by redesigning their crest to incorporate the rainbow flag in a bid to show solidarity with the LGBTQ community. Every now and again, I come up with a funny one. I say, you know what? It's a shame. It's a missed opportunity. If they had inverted the green and the yellow stripes, they could have killed two birds with one stone. They could have gotten the LGBTQ plus, virtue signaling points and the Ukraine support. They could have done both at the same time. Why waste an opportunity? They're showing solidarity by changing their logo while competing in a country. I don't want to oversell it. I was trying to make sure as to what Qatar's laws on gays and lesbians was. They're showing solidarity by playing in a country wherein allegedly, this is Human Rights Watch, security forces arrest, abuse LGBT people, discrimination, ill treatment in detention, privacy violations, conversion practices. What better way to stick it to Qatar than to go bring your hard-earned money there, bring your talent, bring ad revenue, bring whatever money Qatar is going to make off the men's participating in a soccer tournament in Qatar. But they redesigned their logo. And I'm sure the men's team is going to sell a shit ton of that merch as well. What better way to show support than by participating in the country that abuses the people you're purportedly supporting and by monetizing your support for them? I'm sure, but they'll come. All proceeds are going to go to whatever. Qatar Preventative Security Department forces have arbitrarily arrested lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people and subjected them to ill treatment and detention, Human Rights Watch said today. LGBT people interviewed said that their mistreatment took place as recently as September 2022 as Qatar prepared to host the FIFA Men's Cup. Human Rights Watch documented 6 cases of severe and repeated beatings and 5 cases of sexual harassment in police custody between 2019 and 2022. Security forces. No. There's a problem. Qatar is not treating the LGBT community properly. I got the solution. The men's soccer team's got the solution. Let's go there and compete anyhow because we don't want to inconvenience ourselves too much. But let's just make a nominal, superficial virtue signaling modification to our uniforms and go anyhow. It's a win-win. Oh, and we'll monetize the merch. Win-win-win. 3W. It's beautiful. So that's it. That was the funny story. It's a clown world through and through. I feel a little better. I don't know how everybody else feels. Let me just make sure that I'm going to go through my thing here. Yeah, we got that. Trudeau's gone and that thing. That's a tweet. What else do we have here? Twitter. Let me make sure. No, that's the story that we read. It's voluntary. Where are they doing it against people's will? It's voluntary. And they told us it was safe and effective. They told us it was safe and effective before doing trials to determine if it causes myocarditis. That's not moving at the speed of science. That's a crime against humanity. Okay. We've done good today, people. So who feels better? Who feels worse? And who is happy they came and spent an hour and a half listening to Angry Viva? Did Viva just fart when he raised his butt? No, but I am stretching my back. Nature Lover Freedom says, I stopped crying. Okay, were you crying from laughter or from sadness? Oh, my goodness. His cheeks. No, my square doesn't cheek. My chair does not squeak, Time Bandit. And yeah, I didn't. I am taking some pressure off my butt. This new chair is good, but yeah. So let's see what we got in the chat here. I'm always happy to listen to Viva. If nothing else, it makes me think more. Vicky Lynn, 1974. Sephrodine Squib says, I did. It just farted. Okay, Nature Lover Freedom says, I feel okay now. Yeah, still pissed, says Viva Bandit. Time Bandit 66. Pissed Off Dragon says, feel sane. Thanks, Viva. Go, Viva. Yeah, the euthanasia stuff that's yeah. Oh, hold on. They have not read all of it. That was not a fart either. That was my phone. Can't do it again. Damn it. Trust me, it was not a fart. I would admit it. I would own up to it. Can't make it do it again. I'm shaking the table. Stop shaking. Let me see what I got if I took some screen grabs of Rumble rants. I'm not your buddy guy. China has the world's largest, by far, organ exportation. I wonder where the supply comes from. I also wonder if others admire and want to imitate them. I'm not your buddy guy. Referencing Justin Trudeau, who admires China's basic dictatorship. Andreas Decano says the vaccine was voluntary at the beginning too. Yep, Andres Decano. Thank you. Zorosfer says, I am of two mind about medical euthanasia. When I got ALS, it was a possibility. If it wasn't, I would want that. If it wasn't that, it isn't. I would want it on the table. Death is better, in my opinion, than being locked in. I'm not against euthanasia, or I'm not against it. I'm not against it when it's truly voluntary and when it's truly a case of degenerative or incurable illness. I mean, I would probably still be the one who's always going to hold out hope for a miracle of miracles, an anomaly. My father-in-law passed away from cancer. I say the only fortunate thing is he didn't spend any time in a hospital from ailing, pain and suffering and misery, when it would be the same outcome regardless. His only blessing was that he lived until the last day. Hold on a second. Sorry, actually, got something stuck in my throat. Lived until the last day, that last dinner, and then spent one night in the hospital before passing away. I've known people who have had pancreatic cancer, and they say it's there's no coming back from that. So it's excruciating. It's just, and then there's other. It's not a question of it not being allowed, and I think it should be authorized, properly vetted. You can't have the entity that stands to make money or save money from it implementing it. You can't have a corrupt regime implementing it. And you have to have safeguards that are meaningful safeguards, not expanding it to the mentally ill. And now there is actually talk about expanding it to youth, to children. And you have to make sure that you have actual meaningful consent. By its nature, mental illness is a problem when it comes to consent. By its nature, when I was a young lawyer at Board and Ladner Gervais, we used to do these things called motions for confinement. I never liked doing them, and the firm has since stopped doing them. But we would go to court and ask a judge to authorize the forced detention of an individual, forced confinement of an individual who is a clear risk to themselves or others. When people have suicidal tendencies or suicidal ideations, courts are supposed to implement protective measures, not facilitative measures. So that's it. But it's just an absolute disgusting free fall of morality and legal degeneracy. And people, how can anyone look at the Trudeau government and expect them to do anything legitimately in a non-corrupt, ethical manner? We have a 2 times ethics breaching prime minister, corrupt to the core, admires basic dictatorships, is now expanding through law euthanasia to the mentally ill. The year after, we had more by a factor of 10 assisted deaths, euthanasia, than California of the same size states. So that's it. Okay, let's see if there's any Jabbery 308. I don't want to get upset again. My dad died of cancer, and it was the most pathetic thing I've ever witnessed. It was terrible. It seems like we're becoming a culture. That was Jabbery 308. Bello 1022 says it seems like we're becoming a culture celebrating death and not life. And Calamity Sue says suicidal thoughts is the mental illness in itself, period. And I have difficulty not fully agreeing with that. You're talking about someone who's mentally ill, not chronically ill, not degenerative, stage 4 lymphoma, not Alzheimer's, not these things which are debilitating and bring you to a point where you can no longer consent. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me just go to my Twitter and make sure that we've gotten everything that we wanted to get today. I think we did. Okay, so we got that. No, I think we got everything. The masks. Did I start with the doctor? I did with Kieran Moore telling us got to go back to masks. People, I think we've done everything. We've done everything today. It's official. Now I'm going to close up my Twitter and no, hold on. We did not do everything. We're going to end with something good today. We're going to play us out with a very, very happy video. Who remembers Babu? Viva Frei, Babu. Yeah, we're going to end with this. Okay, this might make people cry. I was going to end with my tribute to Babu, but that will make me cry. I will not do that. We're going to end with a beautiful video in a second. Let's just see what's going on in the chat. This is how empires end, says only Christ. End on a fart, says J.K. Jerome. No, I do. I save those for the children or the wife under the sheets. You're dead for a lot longer than you are alive. There's rarely a need to rush to get there. HPR, man. And I got a. It's called thanatophobia. I've got a morbid fear of death. My biggest issue is I have a crippling fear of death, but that might explain a lot of other mental issues on my end. God Wins 74 says, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here I am. Here am I, send me.'" Isaiah 6:8. I'm not. Okay, there's a lot of chat that I'm not going to read. All right. So with that said, I'm actually going to go. I have to get ready for a few things this afternoon. I don't know. What can we say? I feel better, but I cannot assuredly tell everyone, do not despair. Despair is useless. Fear is useless. Panic is useless. Fear is not useless. Fear is useful because it will keep you away from the danger. But you have to channel the sentiments into a useful way. So channel it properly. And I'm going to be very vocal. I am not going to be living in fear that someone might not like a tweet of mine. Live like you damn well mean it, Time Bandit 66. It is time to put the screws to the people and try to wake up even the most mummified of people. People saying it's not happening. It's happening. It's not appropriate. People saying, well, you know, okay, we did the best we could moving at the speed of science. Moving at the speed of science means not moving faster than the speed of science. Telling us something is safe and effective when you have not even undertaken the proper protocol to make that statement, it's not I was wrong. It's you lied. And I will always stay reasonably polite, and I will not conduct myself in a manner that will make my parents, my children, or my pets ashamed of me. Although I think my dad might say some of my tweets are a little over the top, but whatever. To each their own. Do not become the monster in your fight against the monster. That's not how it's going to be won. People need to, I don't want to say wake up. People need to be informed as to what is going on. And that's what I'm trying to do. So with that said, everybody, get out there, sunlight, vitamin D, and do it. Talk to people in real life. Now I'm going to play you something. It might make you cry. It might make me cry because Babu was among the best dogs that we ever got. He was a rescue. He went blind from, it was, what's it called? Acute retinitis. Blind overnight. It was crazy. And we barely even noticed it, but it was done. And he was a good dog. There are very few dogs. I mean, I guess no, maybe I'm just traumatized from Barney, but having a dog that it's inconceivable they would ever do anything bad to. Inconceivable. Babu was one of them. Winston's another one. Pudge is another one. So with that said, everyone, enjoy this play out, which will make you laugh. It will make you cry. And I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, you better play. This is after he went blind. I would wake him up by kissing him. That's him actually snoring. Okay, enjoy. See you tomorrow.
Oh, get up. I wake him. He does. I think he's dead.
Oh,